What was it like then to obviously spend time with him? Because I know you mentioned yesterday you had obviously an interview with him, but then you had countless hours afterwards of just you and him talking.
It was. It's a once in a lifetime experience. I really, really look up to him, and I think just in human nature, compassion and empathy are very important. And like the root word of empathy is empath. And I think the more empathy that you express towards your fellow man, I think the more likelihood or chance that you will come in tune with your own empath or empathy or intuition. So I feel I resonate deeply with him and who he is. And he was everything I would have thought, everything that I thought he would be, in just being such a compassionate and empathetic soul who is really focused a lot of his time and energy towards the massive student body that he has. And I don't know if I want to get into all of the stuff that we talked about, because I thought it was pretty. I want to be respectful,
of course,
to him, but and to what those conversations were. But I could just really sense how deeply he cares for his students, and how kind of torn he's been with this global body of students, and then his family. Like, because you want to be there for your family as well. And being a husband, being a father is more important than just being ICT. And I think that's just from my own 2 cents and understanding and conversing with him. I feel like as he is leaving social media and his hundreds of thousands of followers, I think he's going to very calmly and succinctly and just, I think he's just going to focus on being a dad and being a husband. And I don't want to speak for him, but I think those are roles that are very important to him, as have been his students. And that's just kind of how I see it, just from talking with him. So for me, is once in a lifetime experience. It was bucket lists, a man I look up to and admire deeply, and I can relate to how much he cares about trying to help other people.
Definitely. And what's interesting is, obviously, in life you're hitting these milestones, and as you say, like a bucket list item. And at this time, is it any different to, say, if you hit a milestone 10 years ago or 15 years ago, in terms of it's feeling, and being able to do that continuously, hit new milestones in different areas of life? But what's it like, obviously, to have that mindset still, to keep striving for more and to be better?
I mean, I say being 1% better every day. That's something obviously you say as well. I've heard you say it multiple times. For me, Steve Covey, another author, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, another very classic book in the late 90s when I was kind of growing up in my 20s, treated it much like a textbook. And at 45 years of age, I still think a lot of that holds true, and a lot of the messaging I have within these spaces and within the classrooms and everywhere else. Becoming 1% better for me is just simply drawing a plus sign on a sheet of paper. You've got your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual, and you're really, really focusing on each one of these quadrants within your life. And you're going to make a list, an exhaustive list in each one of these quadrants, and you're going to really find ways to tick specific boxes off. So with physical, it could be sleep, it could be what you're eating, it could be exercise, it's going to be stress management. So your physical quadrant is super important. Mentally, what are you doing? Are you reading? Are you studying? Are you journaling? Are you writing? How are you trying to seek more information? That could be for trading, that could be for life, could be for philosophy, how to, learn something new. How are you exercising that mental quadrant? The emotional quadrant is you're the individual. You're a husband, you're a dad, you're a friend, probably a brother. You've got 6, 7, 8 different roles that you play. You're a podcast host. You've got these goals within these roles of who you are as an individual. So emotionally, what are they, and what are you doing, or how are you striving to get to them? And then finally, spiritually is your breath, your meditation, dealing with emotional drawdown. How are you coping with, and how do you resonate with simply trying to be better? So for me, it's that simple. When we talk about being 1% better every day, that's what we talk about doing. We quantify how. How do we get better? And it's one thing to be a Hallmark card. It's one thing to have a Hallmark tweet that goes viral. It's another thing to really delve into a space and talk about how. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do different? What am I going to do different? And I mean, for me, it's calisthenics. Like my physical realm, it's calisthenics. It's fresh meat, fresh fruits, vegetables. It's intermittent fasting. It's sobriety. It's not something I always was, but I am. And it's, the best thing for me. But that would kind of, you could say it overlaps into your physical and your mental. So, but, for me, I could say even like I've had a harder time with my mental and emotional state in dealing with the challenges I've dealt with my ex-wife and those daily things. But from a spiritual level, I feel very fulfilled in my own purpose of really dedicating and volunteering my time and energy towards really trying to help other people.
Yeah.
So I personally, I feel good on my physical quadrant and my spiritual quadrant. Woo woo. And I'm working just like we all are on my mental and some of my emotional challenges.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I think that 1% better every day is definitely a thing. And the follow up is how. How do you do it? How do you get 1% better? Just curious.
I just look at what I've been doing, and how much have I progressed? How much have I struggled with? But how much have I progressed so far? But what am I doing that I could do better? So like before, back in August, before that, I was still progressing. I was still working hard. I was still seeing results, but I was still, say, smoking. I was still, say, drinking. I was still not exercising properly. I still wasn't dieting properly. I still wasn't maybe doing the podcast research, right? Or maybe I wasn't looking at watching the podcast myself, each episode, or, doing the end of day markups, or journaling my thoughts consistently, or, whatever wasn't I doing, even though I wasn't doing it, I was still seeing results. So if I start to do more things or take away certain things that can help improve, then I would only get better. So it's kind of very similar in terms of like either breaking it up to, rather than the quadrants, I was literally just looking at what I wasn't doing and what I was doing, what negative things I was doing and what positive things I wasn't doing, and then just saying, okay, if I want to improve more than I have already, then I need to remove some of these negatives or start implementing some of these positives, and then just one at a time. I'm a bit more of someone who works in extremes. So essentially what I did was in August last year, I just got rid of loads of the negatives at once, right? And then didn't implement the positives straight away, but just by removing those negatives, I started to accelerate. And then if you think about from August up to December, that body of work and that focus and that relentlessness of just doing that, and then starting to slowly implement the positives too, has led to where I am now in terms of like seeing a lot of momentum, a lot of progress. And even to this day, I'm still thinking like people will look at, okay, the podcast is doing this, or your trading is doing this, and your tweets are doing that, or whatever it may be. Even then, I'm still doing the same thing where it's like, okay, what am I not doing? And what am I doing that isn't maybe too good? So I can then do the same process constantly over and over. And, from doing that, it's just been one step after another. It's not like huge leaps, but it's strange that day by day, after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of those day-to-days, the leaps start to take place. And it's just been something I've been aware of and observed, that just by little things, it's not like massive, huge change. It's not like I've changed a strategy, or I've completely changed what the podcast is like, or I've completely changed my mindset, or my values. Nothing like that. It's just little tiny changes, but the accumulation of them and the discipline to stick to those changes has led to sort of very large steps forward over
Incremental
time.
steps.
Yeah.